Hello everyone, thank you for clicking on this video, I appreciate it. I just wanted to clarify that somewhere in production the audio was distorted in places. It seems to have happened during rendering, and while I've tried to examine the problem, my disk is full up with Max Payne free footage and there's no room to make another version unless I start deleting everything off my computer. I put a lot of time into this video, so I've made the call to upload it, and I wanted to say that for any new viewers, this is just a technical hiccup. I do know how to basically edit videos, so please don't think that this is the standard to expect from any future uploads. I will try and make sure this issue is sorted out. Anyway, thank you again, and regardless of this, I hope you enjoy. Guess who had to re-record the script because they've been speaking into the microphone the wrong way since they started YouTube? Shooters have always been quite ambivalent with what they want to be. In cutscenes, they're action-packed sequences of raucous gunfire and explosions, but in game, the only reliable strategy is to sit behind a chest-high wall and pop the heads of Russians or Arabs or whoever the US has decided is going to cause communism again. It doesn't know if it wants to be American Sniper or Team America. But then Max Payne 3 comes in and says, fuck that noise, I'm gonna smack a guy over the head and give him a third nostril. It's visceral, it's gory, it's unapologetically gruesome, and it's brilliant. For the 6 to 7 hours I binged this game, I loved it. Enough so that I played through it again to record and talk about it on my dumb channel. But just because you love something doesn't make it perfect. I would know because I'm the one person left who still enjoys Brink. So let's get started, shall we? Max Payne 3 features our protagonist, ex-NYPD officer Max Payne, taking a bodyguard job in Brazil to protect a rich family known as the Brancos after being chased out of New Jersey. The story follows his desperate attempts to protect the family from favela gangs, right-wing paramilitaries, Brazilian police LARPing as American police, all the while fighting the agonizing grief of the death of his own family. I really like how the game frames Max's perspective in its visual design. During cutscenes, there's a black border around the edge of the screen, and I think this is reminiscent of how he looks at the framed photo of his dead wife in the beginning of the game. I think it shows that for a lot of Max's memories, they're framed just like that photo, and he reflects upon them as if he's reciting his memoirs over whiskey in a bar. It's very fitting, considering this quote about how some people stay in the past and others focus on the future. They're also hazy. Laden with emotion and blurred by an addiction to depressants, these moments of downtime waver and flash with light. He almost jumps from key moments, skipping parts of the story that he couldn't remember, and this works to keep a good and interesting pace. The only time Max is truly in focus, when the border shrinks back and he has fluid memory of it all, is when he's killing people. He remembers vivid details of carnage, of the masked thugs he slaughters en masse to save the dame, because the one thing his shell has retained is the rush of a gunfight. It's really subtle, and I honestly didn't expect this from a Rockstar game where characters are usually written like this.
How about you suck my cock? Huh?
Max Payne as a character is your typical begrudged and cynical action anti-hero archetype with a soft center. Now for our time it's not really revolutionary, but when he was established it was emergent and fresh. He was the gritty and philosophical ancestor of John Wick, Sam Fisher and Arthur Morgan, flawed and damaged men with an affinity for murder and a tragic past. He's a sarcastic hardass that responds to the world by bristling his coarse coat, a man who invests himself in solitude, but also cares for those he protects. He's a great character, a sympathetic character, and he gels well with the player. It's a real shame all the others are shit. The side characters are annoying, whiny, artificial, and stupid. For characters like Marcello, this is intended, and they're annoying or stupid because the game wants them to be.
Nothing but the second best. Why can't we sit over there, Mom? I love you, but Cloud you can advance. Cloud you? Fucking Cloud you, he isn't even any good.
But the game also clearly wants me to like Giovanna, a humble charity worker that works in the favelas. But during the chapter where you protect her, she's a bumbling fucking idiot.
They're going to kill us!
Giovanna, just wait!
Peso, someone who I did like at the beginning and is established as Max's protege, is awful. He stands around and contributes nothing beyond awful dialogue I would expect from the typical Rockstar game.
What's waiting outside for us?
Well, it ain't gonna be a warm cup of milk and a blowjob.
And the villains, oh my god, the villains. Victor is completely forgettable. I knew he was going to betray me from the start. Becca, Ufei's leader, looks like the kid that would attend school in a suit and justify Derek Chauvin. Hey babe, wanna discuss crime statistics? Neves, a leader of the Black Badge paramilitary organization, is literally involved in harvesting the organs of favela civilians to raise money for a right-wing political campaign, and the only reasoning or exploration we get is it's a legitimate business venture. It sucks. It just fucking sucks, because I can see an opportunity for the game to showcase how awful stuff like this happens. That the money they use taking apart those they see as societal baggage will stabilize a better Brazil in which those they hate won't be around ruining the country. You know, actual nationalist thought processes that spur on these kind of movements and the horrible things they do. But no, we don't get that. We get this.
What the fuck is your problem, man? You think stopping this legitimate business venture is helping anyone?
Ned Flanders is literally committing downsized genocide of poor people, and I don't really feel like it's given the weight it should be beyond this point. The only moment in which I liked another character was a moment with Rodrigo Branco when he said this line.
Do you think a pile of shit feels popular because it's surrounded by flies? Look at me. I'm a mess.
That's all I liked. That's it. That's all I cared about from him. And then he got shot in the head in the next scene. Here's a basic rundown of the story. You're this guy, Max Payne, and you've been roped into a bodyguard job for the Branco family, particularly a Mr. Rodrigo Branco. His wife, Fabiana, is kidnapped by the Commander Sombra. You're ambushed at a ransom exchange by a right-wing paramilitary group called the Black Badge.
Sniper spree.
Your boss is killed during an attack on Branco HQ, and then Commander Sombra's leader, Serrano, kills Fabiana. A detective called De Silva tells you of a plot between Ufei, Black Badge, and Victor, in which you uncover that Ufei is kidnapping civilians and passing them over to the Black Badge to have their organs harvested so money can be raised for Victor's political campaign. You also discover Ufei had Rodrigo killed during the attack by Backmeyer. You kill Neves, then Backmeyer, then Becca, and then Victor gets hung in his jail cell. Sunrise, roll credits. Oh, also notice how I didn't speak about Marcello getting burned alive because it's a complete waste of time, and even when he's dying, he's still contributing nothing of value to the story. It's a serviceable narrative. The game is clearly focused on making shooting people fun and engaging, so it doesn't need to be revolutionary or gripping. We just need some thinly veiled reasons for Max to become a violent anti-hero as he's been established. I mean, I'd have preferred to have a great story and a great game on the side of it, but alas, you know, this works. Or so you'd think. Because for some reason, everyone seems to fucking love this generic Die Hard story. I'll admit, at the beginning, it did grip me. You start with the end to showcase how far things go, the whole thing opens with a party crash by some masked thugs. It's good. But you know how in Dishonored, from the get-go, you know the trajectory of what's gonna happen? That there's a list of targets that are spoken of even before you go to kill them? It involves you in the story. It creates the sense that there is a plan bigger than you, but it also creates stakes and lets you come to know characters beyond the realm of, oh, they're a mission objective with a face. Well, that's the problem in Max Payne 3. For the first half of the game, it's about finding and saving Fabiana. 6 whole chapters are centered around this conflict. And then we do find her, and she's immediately shot in the head. Bruh. Now, if Victor had arranged for her to be ransomed with his gang, why do they kill her? So she can't access the money as Rodrigo's widow? Well, okay, that makes sense, but they only seem to decide on killing her once we turn up. So was Max the necessity in this plan? Or was he turning up to something already arranged? And if it was already arranged, why did they bother keeping her alive after the football stadium exchange? You don't get the answers to these questions. Instead, you get exposition dumped by De Silva 20 minutes before Fabiana's killed about Victor's scheme and the players involved. These characters all just pop up towards the end. But most of them are in the party at the first level, indicating that it was actually probably arranged for these adversaries to be spread throughout the game gradually, but either the devs forgot about it and had written a big chunk of the story already, or the AAA gaming industry did what it does best and fucked over their own staff. In the penultimate mission, you see who killed Rodrigo Branco, and it just so happens, a couple of rooms over, you run into him. And then you kill him. Storytelling! And what's worse than flaccid villains with no charisma or identity is that Backmeyer assassinates someone while dressed in an easily identifiable uniform, without a mask, in front of a fucking video camera, and rather than just destroy the tape, the one piece of evidence that could topple the conspiracy, he just keeps it sitting around for someone in the office to find. They even fucking label it! Who the fuck would kill someone and then keep a labeled disc of the... Wait, what's this? Look, I could spend hours talking about how plot convenience repeatedly creates these really dumb moments, but they're so commonplace I'd be here for 30 extra pages picking apart each and every instance. It's stupid and annoying, and you know what? It's made even more painful by the fact I can see something gleaming amidst the debris. In Chapter 4, Pesos says to Max that the reason why the Commander Sombra have an almost inexhaustible cohort of troops is because most of them are young men who are recruited with promises of money and clothes. When your life is this, that's not exactly surprising, but it's not just something that non-European countries do either. In London, chicken shop grooming is a massive thing where street gangs will target young kids, poor kids, and offer to buy them whatever they want in a chicken shop. The kid has no idea that they're actually creating a massive debt. Eventually, the gang forces them to pay money they don't have, so the kid ends up becoming a drug mule for the gang to pay off the debt. Now, it seems like I'm kind of spitting in the face of how awful this is that it goes on by comparing it to a fucking video game from 2011, but this is really how it works. Poor people get exploited to do bad things for others. Hell, Max even makes a comment in the favelas that for a lot of kids, their only legitimate way out of the slums is football. The game clearly wants to talk about this. Serrano probably started out as a favela kid as well, and now he's at the top rung, but even then, he's still being exploited by people who end up imprisoning him to harvest his organs as well. The people he kills for are the same people who keep him and his community in poverty. This isn't me trying to justify the guy. He shoots a defenseless woman in the face and shoots up a nightclub, but it explains the mechanisms of how people end up doing the things they do. A rich guy wanting to be richer, using the poor to do his dirty work just so he can get political power and then get rid of them. How interesting would have this been to explore for Max Payne, someone who's later revealed to have also been exploited, so he'd become the violent American that takes the fall for Rodrigo's murder? I think it would have been a very compelling exploration of poverty, organised crime, and the prevalent issue of far-right death squadrons directing the flow of politics in countries like Brazil. It almost seems like in places they do want to talk about the wealth gap, about the disgusting, almost goading juxtaposition of a rich hotel looking down on the slums. This would have been a story worthy of the praise that a far more generic narrative is receiving in its place. This doesn't happen. In an era in which a character being gay is equated to supporting the erasure of straight white males from media, you can't have genuine discussion of difficult topics like this because the people who claim everyone is too offended nowadays keep getting offended when you say anything that threatens to undermine their very restricted worldview. So after this very brief conversation with Pesos, you immediately take to massacring droves of these impoverished young men with automatic weapons and high caliber pistols. My favourite Nakey Jakey video that I've watched when I'm doing chores or cooking is his Last of Us 2 video. In this video, Nakey Jakey uses a phrase called ludonarrative dissonance, where the story being told in cutscenes is very different to the story being told in the actual game. The Last of Us 2 seeks to punish the player for their violent choices, even though there's no way to spare enemies, so the word choice is doing a lot of overtime here. But it never addresses what the player is actually doing. It only ever focuses on what Ellie does in cutscenes, the thing the player has no stake in whatsoever. It will try and make you feel bad for killing a dog in a QTE section, where if you decide to not kill the dog, you lose, and you can't progress. The game decides to punish you by putting you in constant cutscenes and QTE sequences where, if you refuse to fight back, you just fucking lose. This is the exact problem in Max Payne 3, for different reasons. Without spending 20 years talking about how the game will make you watch a cutscene every time you open a door, or press a button, or enter a new room, or every time you clear a group of enemies you have to watch Pesos walk across the room for 5 seconds, the issue I have is that they become an intrusive and repetitive vehicle for plot convenience. In gameplay, Max Payne is a force of nature because you're a force of nature. He's insurmountable and he's on a path of destruction. He's a genuine threat to the integrity of a conspiracy. But in cutscenes, he's a bumbling moron to service for plot. In this cutscene, Max is outside the room where Fabiana is being held. considering we already know that people in the favelas do not like white Americans and they have punctuated their dislike with bursts of gunfire, it surely must be very apparent to Max that they will kill him and the hostages if he doesn't kill them all in quick succession. This is something that we have been able to do repeatedly throughout the game like it's nothing. But instead, he just walks in and yells, "Let her go," to the room of armed, angry, non-English speaking thugs. And you know what's even dumber? Why do they not shoot him? Max is established as the only outlier in the plot, someone who has killed hundreds of their comrades and allies, someone who, during gameplay, has been shot at without any hesitation, but in cutscenes they just refuse to fucking kill him. They leave him unattended with one guy. There is no reason for this. We were just shown Serrano executing people on the fly. In the hotel mission, he's standing out in the open. They could just shoot him, no? Did Max become fucking terrifying in the last 10 seconds? In the police mission, he waltzes into a police station filled with armed guards and pulls out a gun. Now, even if we don't mention they know who he is, a random man has just walked into a police station and pulled out a loaded firearm. He should be fucking dead. Why do they even bother interrogating him? These are corrupt cops. They don't need a reason to kill. The game just fucking established this to us. Backmeyer, during the police mission, has the drop on Max, but decides to espouse instead how stupid Americans are, instead of just, kill him. Why did you need to do this now? You could have waited until you, mortally wounded him. Backmeyer is someone who is paid to shoot people in the back of the head, and here I am presenting the back of my massive fucking egghead to him, and he can't even do that to the person who just wiped the floor with 10 Ufe soldiers. Here's an important tenet of writing adversaries. If you're putting your character in situations like this, and you realize this would immediately kill them, change the scenario. Do not do this. Your character does not appear smarter because you made everyone else insufferably dumber. It's on the topic of ludonarrative dissonance in these cutscenes that I want to talk about a little nitpick I have. Health systems in shooters. Most of us have played COD or adjacent games where your masculine American DNA lets you regenerate from bullet wounds in 5 seconds if you take cover. The game doesn't talk about it, you don't talk about it, no one bats an eye. And it works. COD is a casual shooter and this method lets you stay in the action. But Max Payne has always worked off a limited health system. The amount of damage Max can take is limited, and if its bar fills, it doesn't end well for him. Luckily enough, the levels are laden with painkillers that let you bring this bar down a couple of notches. However, the supply is limited, meaning you have to make meaningful decisions as to when to indulge in your drug addiction. Oh my god. These pills are so fucking good. Ugh. It almost went down my throat. I like this system a lot. Having this creates a challenge where you have to judge what you do before you actually do it. Sure, you could do a cool ass dive and punk some dude, but then you'd probably have to use a painkiller and you don't know when you're gonna find the next dose. But this raises a point. How does this work? It's clearly a step in a more realistic direction for sure, but Max is still eating 7.62 from an AK and walking it off like it's nothing. You wanna see what an AK can do to flesh?
First off, the bone is obliterated, round impacted right here, pulled all the way through, and it looks to be that it ejected out the top.
It's very clear the game is wary of how pointy bullets are, because in the QTE section against Scarface, one shot to the stomach with a pistol is a game over, but it would hardly be a notch on my health meter in the game itself. This is why I start to ponder if there isn't a better way to go about health systems in shooter games. For instance, what if Max instead wore a vest and every time you were shot, the vest took damage? If the vest is then broken, the next shot is a fatal blow. Max can then replace his plate carrier with ones he finds around the level. This creates the sense that Max really is an unstoppable killer, that he survives countless brushes with death because he's a trained fighter who has his wits about him, instead of just being the main character. I know, it's not a perfect replacement, because what if Max gets shot in the arms or the leg? He'd have to wear a full bullet-resistant suit. That's true, and I realise it's probably very difficult to provide realistic replacement for this health system. But I think the inherent jank of a shooter's health mechanic would be far more acceptable with a vest system than Max absorbing high caliber rounds like it's nothing and then just dying to a single 9mm in a cutscene. It almost makes the cutscenes harder to watch because all I can do is pay attention to just how many times he's been shot in the fucking ass. If you used the vest system, you could make it so the boss shoots you in a place the armor doesn't cover. That way it makes sense that you die to a single shot. Maybe he shoots you in the leg and then the head, or maybe he just shoots you in the head and saves us all the trouble of an awful boss fight. Okay, so the cutscenes are bad, the characters are bad, the story is generic, and there's nitpicks about the health system. But the core game is good, right? Well, kinda. You see, the main gameplay loop is very simple, but lots of fun. You aim, you shoot, you dive, you kill people, rinse and repeat. It's a lot more fun than you'd usually associate with a Rockstar game. There's no auto-aim to be seen, just you and your epic gamer skills. The bullet time ability allows you to become a harbinger of death, punctuating every last kill in a section with a bullet camera similar to Sniper Elite, where you watch your shot carve a fresh hole through the poor sod that forgot you were the protagonist. I can really see this being the inspiration for all the cool close-up shots you got when you killed someone in Red Dead 2. And it really makes me wish they added a similar bullet time in that game. Imagine how fun it would have been if you could bullet dodge or dive during Deadeye, leaping off the side of your horse to nuke a bunch of unsuspecting O'Driscolls. The gameplay loop is robust, it's fun, and it nails what it aims to do. Make the player become a badass. But for some reason, the game is really shy about letting you do this, and is constantly giving you stuff you don't want to do. Do you like slow-mo? I sure hope you do. Here's a scene where you shoot an explosive out of the air. You will be doing this several times with no variation. Here's a scene where you shoot at an armored dude. He will appear 3 times throughout the entirety of the game, and is the only enemy diversity offered. Here's an on-the-rails shooting section that overstays its welcome. Here's an obligatory sniper scene, so now you have to play the game as a generic first-person shooter. Here's an open area for you to explore the collectibles and painkillers, but if you take more than 2 seconds, pesos will start yelling at you to hurry up.
You settling in here? Come on, let's go!
Here's a level where you start out with a suppressed pistol because we want this to be a stealth mission, despite the fact there are no stealth mechanics programmed into this game whatsoever, and enemies always alert even if you kill the patrol before they can fire back. So we just want you to feel like an idiot who can't play games right. All of this will happen while we interrupt you every time you kill a gaggle of enemies to play a cutscene longer than the time it took you to clear the area. We need to zoom in on this last point, because this is the cardinal fucking sin here. From what little I've seen of Max Payne 2, the game lets you move around between areas of your own volition. Mona tells you where to go, and you go there. The game flows far better because you are the agent of control. You get to explore areas without someone yelling in your ear to get a move on. In Max Payne 3, I start feeling like I'm being taken to shooting galleries. A cutscene plays, bad guys turn up, I kill them, and then another cutscene plays to shepherd me to the next point. Sometimes, even worse, the cutscene will depict something that would have been fun for the player to do, just so you get to the next area. I can see a fantastic game begging to be played. Rockstar, why aren't you letting me fucking play it? The best levels in this game are the final 2, in my opinion. The police station and the airport. Enemies are robust targets that are sheathed in body armor, making body shots worthless and encouraging you to aim for the head where they're not as protected. The music, especially the airport level, create fantastic moments where you're gunning down wave after wave of Ufei goons as you make one last ditch attempt to right not just the wrongs of Victor and his conspirators, but Max's wrongs in the past too. The game doesn't repeatedly intervene to move you from area to area, you move at your own pace and you get to explore the level without being harassed about it constantly. These levels really saved the game for me, and God, I wish I could tell you that this was the example set for all the others, but a good 50% of the missions are constantly butting in and disrupting the flow of an otherwise brilliant title. And it sucks because there are so many good things about it. I like that enemies have body armor that encourages me to change where I'm shooting. I like that I don't take as much fire or damage if I'm constantly moving position instead of sitting in place. I like that the game's weapons start off small with pistols and SMGs and scale with the game's progression, eventually leading to the use of assault rifles and even LMGs if you can find them. The environments are great, taking you from vibrant scenes within the city to lush swamps and dark police stations. I like that the AI use cover, they cover one another when they move up, and they pose genuine threat when close enough to land consecutive shots. Hell, I even like the ending. Even if it doesn't tie up everything and doesn't adequately explain how Max got away unscathed, I like it, it feels conclusive. But it's so hard to appreciate all of this when the game keeps wanting me to watch a movie. I don't get to kill anyone in this game. There's a lame boss QTE section with Scarface and a very basic boss fight with Backmire where you have to drop air vents on him until he's brought out of cover so you can shoot him. Does it make sense? No, but it's the closest thing you get to a video game. Other than that, everyone else is killed in fucking cutscenes. You don't even get to kill Victor. De Silva stops you claiming he'll get what he deserves. But tell me, why would Max listen? An angry man dosed up on drugs, alcohol and bloodthirst to avenge a past he can never change and a family that he can never bring back does not have any incentive to spare Victor after he's just killed hundreds of enemies, some of which are poor people for hire. This guy was involved in fucking organ harvesting. De Silva literally set us off in an airport with a .50 caliber pistol in a post 9/11 era, but he draws the line at finishing? I feel sorry for his wife. Max Payne 3 is a confused game. It wants to be a gritty story about a man discovering how gruesome the world can be, about how there are men worse than him who commit atrocity through a medium of paper and plastic to make monsters of ordinary people, but it interrupts itself so often it never gets to finish what it's saying. It's a shooter laden with fantastic moments that serves to be an impressive technological upgrade for the trilogy, but it's constantly tampered with by the generic trademarks of far inferior titles of the time. That it feels the need to suffocate the player by constantly intervening to ensure all the pieces are in the right place through a 2-minute cutscene before it can spawn the next wave of 6 guys. It's really annoying how a big chunk of all of its problems would go away if it stopped breathing down my neck all the time. That being said, Max Payne 3 was a blast. I feel like those hours I spent playing were a lot of fun, and, you know, it's kind of meta if you think about it. Max's life has been turbulent and confusing, good sprinkled in over bad. But at the end of it, there's relief, there's happiness, there's reward, and there's that unshakable feeling that you beat the game. That final shot with the sun shows Max is on to better things, and honestly, I hope there's not another Payne game. His story's over, and he deserves to rest. And you deserve to play this game, so, like me, you can appreciate that shooters don't have to be about crouching behind chest-high walls to be a good time.